Everyone, I would like you to think back to a time where someone really, really upset you. And when I mean upset you, I mean, man, you just wanted to punch that person in the face because of how much they were irritating you. I want you to think back to a time like that. Now, I hope in that moment you didn't actually punch that person in the face, but now imagine this unlikely scenario with me, and I know it's unlikely, but just bear with me. Imagine that in that moment, someone walked up to you and they said, hey, that person who upset you so much, if you go punch that person in the face, well, nothing really will happen. But if you don't punch that person in the face, I will take away your main source of income, I will damage your livelihood, and I will make sure that everything you have worked for, everything that you want to pass down to future generations of your family, I will make sure that none of it ever reaches them, because I'll take it all away. All because you don't punch that guy in the face. Now in that scenario, would you punch that guy in the face? I mean, they upset you, and you're going to lose everything if you don't. Sure, it's wrong to punch someone in the face and everything comes back around eventually, you get in trouble. But there's not many things that are worse than losing everything you've ever worked for. Well, this is the exact type of situation that Logan Gold found himself in on November 11, 2023, when they kidnapped Taylor Alexander by binding, drugging, and blinding them in order to sway the outcome of the Emerald Bend election. Now, why did Logan Gold feel the need to do this? Was everything really at stake? The answer is yes. Logan Gold knew that if Taylor Alexander was allowed to make a point at that debate, if they were allowed to say something coherent which convinced the voters of Emerald Bend to vote for their cause, Logan Gold knew that Taylor Alexander would enact changes that would run their family business out of business. They would be closed down. Logan Gold knew this fact. He attested to knowing this fact. And he further admitted that his family business matters a lot to him. He really wants to be able to pass it down to his future generations, to his kids. It's something that matters to him. And then he further admitted that this difference in political and monetary goals for Emerald Bend between them and Taylor Alexander, it's a source of great animosity. They admitted to this. Logan Gold had the motive to kidnap Taylor Alexander. Their whole family business would be destroyed if Taylor Alexander won that debate after all. So now we need to just prove that Taylor Alexander was kidnapped by Logan Gold. So let's talk about kidnapping. What makes a kidnapping? Well, what makes a kidnapping according to Calcrim 1215, Penal Code 207, is three elements. First, the defendant must have restrained the victim using force or fear. Now, I don't know about you, but based off what we've discussed in this case, this element has most definitely been met. Taylor Alexander had a pillowcase put over their head. They were stuffed in the trunk of a car. They were tied to a chair and they were drugged. They were most definitely restrained, and if that's not using force, I don't know what is. So that element has been met. Then what about the second element? The second element of a kidnapping is moving the victim a substantial distance. Once again, Taylor Alexander was most definitely moved a substantial distance. They were driven in the trunk of a car for an hour with a pillowcase over their head, not knowing where they're going to go. An hours-long car drive is more than a substantial distance. That's actually quite a great distance. So that element has also been met. So the final element is that the victim did not consent to being moved. Once again, this element has most definitely been met. Taylor Alexander had a bag put over their head, was stuffed in the trunk of a car, was tied to a chair, and then was knocked unconscious by a drug. They didn't even have the opportunity to give consent. And to be honest, no sane person would consent to going through what Taylor Alexander went through. So we know that Taylor Alexander was most definitely kidnapped on November 11th. So the only reason why we're here is because we need to tie Logan Gold to being the perpetrator of that kidnapping. So let's do that. Let's talk about the evidence and the timeline and how that shows that Logan Gold really did kidnap Taylor Alexander. First of all, we know that Logan Gold had the time to do it. Now the defense will try and say, Logan Gold woke up at 8:30 a.m. Taylor Alexander was kidnapped at 5:30 a.m. Logan Gold has an alibi with CJ Costly at 9:30 a.m. Taylor Alexander was drugged twice throughout the day. There just wasn't time for Logan Gold to have been the perpetrator of Taylor Alexander's kidnapping. Well, this is just false. First of all, is Logan Gold waking up at 8:30 a.m. Nobody except Logan Gold can attest to this fact because Harper DeRay, Logan Gold's wife, was fast asleep when Logan Gold woke up at 8:30. This means that nobody except Logan Gold knows where Logan Gold was since the night before up until 9:30 when they went to CJ Costley's neighborhood. Now CJ Costley can attest to Logan Gold being there for 5 minutes. 5 minutes only. That's what you can attest to. Logan Gold was most definitely at CJ Costley's neighborhood at 9:30 through 9:35 a.m. But then once again, from 9:35 a.m. to 12:30 a.m., there's a huge chunk of time where Logan Gold was unaccounted for. So let's go through this again. Taylor Alexander was kidnapped at 5:30 a.m. Logan Gold is only accounted for at 9:30 a.m. That's 4 hours for Logan Gold to commit the kidnapping, to stuff Taylor Alexander in the trunk of his car, to drive him to the Lakeside Drive property, to drug him. That's 4 hours for him to do that. And then after that, from 9:30 a.m. till 12:30 p.m., when the debate ended, Logan Gold once again was unaccounted for another 2 hours and 55 minutes. That's once again more time for Logan Gold to have committed the acts that he's accused of committing today. Logan Gold had the time to kidnap Taylor Alexander. Right now we need to prove that he took the time to do it. And this is also proven by the evidence of the case. First of all, when Deputy Riley Kim searched Logan Gold's home, blue duck line rope was found inside of it. This is the same type of rope that was used to tie up Taylor Alexander in the rental property. That's quite the coincidence, is it not? Then, when you pair this with the fact that Logan Gold's car, the tire on his car makes the same tire tread that was found at the scene of the crime where Taylor Alexander was held at the Lakeside property. His car makes that same exact tire print. Furthermore, when you connect this with the fact that Taylor Alexander's captor used Logan Gold's mantra, his catchphrase that he lives by, over and over and over again, that everything comes back around, everything comes back around. It's obvious that Logan Gold was at that property and that he was the one who kidnapped Taylor Alexander. He had the time, he was obviously at the location, and Taylor Alexander's captor loves to speak the same way that Logan Gold does. Logan Gold most definitely kidnapped Taylor Alexander. So let's try and tie this all back together. Logan Gold had the motive, he had the ability to kidnap Taylor Alexander, and furthermore, Taylor Alexander was kidnapped according to the law. Logan Gold is guilty, without a doubt. He physically restrained Taylor Alexander using force. He moved him a substantial distance, and Taylor Alexander did not consent to that movement. Logan Gold is guilty of a kidnapping. So that is why I ask that you rule in favor of the law, in favor of the evidence, and in favor of the victim, Taylor Alexander, and you find Logan Gold guilty of kidnapping. And then for my, I discredit the witnesses by saying something like, okay, in case you haven't noticed, the defense's witnesses seem to do nothing but discredit everything that the prosecution's witnesses say. In fact, the prosecution and defense witnesses can't even agree on interpretations of evidence or anything of the like. And this is for one simple reason. The prosecution's witnesses are qualified and unbiased witnesses who were actually there. They were the detective, they were the medical responder, they were unbiased. That's what the prosecution has. But the defense, no. What they have biased witnesses. They have the wife, the supporter, and the paid practitioner of Logan Gold speaking and testifying to what happened on November 11th. I ask you that you do not allow the defense's incredulous and underqualified testimony to create reasonable doubt in your mind when the facts of the case, the true facts of the case, point to Logan Gold being guilty of kidnapping Taylor Alexander. Thank you. I'd say something like that.